We're all still on cloud nine from Arsenal 3, Real Madrid 0, but there is a job to do in the Premier League, and that comes in the form of a home game against Bournemouth Saturday at 5:30. This is the preview podcast of that game here at Arsenal Unfiltered. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Arsenal Unfiltered, your 3 times a week dose of Arsenal coverage with me, your host Mark. Some might say this is a bit of a weird podcast to be doing right now because I think everyone's mind is just on the Real Madrid tie, that second leg, getting through after our miraculous performance midweek. But we do have a match this weekend, Saturday afternoon against Brentford, which we've got to keep going in the Premier League. I think it's important for these games not to feel just like a drag in between Champions League matches now. It might feel like that way to us as fans, but it cannot feel like that way for the players. They've got to keep building momentum, keep staying sharp. So it is an important game, and it's one that I think it could be tricky for us. It could be tricky for us. Brentford are a good team. We're going to go into that in a little bit. Before I get started with any of that, I just want to say a massive, massive thank you again for all the support on the 2 Real Madrid podcasts, the preview podcast and the match review podcast. There's been so much love. Of course, part of that is Arsenal doing a really, really good job. It means people want to soak up the content, but I really, really appreciate everyone who's listened and downloaded the podcast. It really means the world. Again, we are getting people from completely new countries all the time, so welcome for our listeners from Malta. That's definitely a new country. We've got someone listening in Indonesia, Congo. Really, really exciting to unlock these new countries and have people listening from all over the world. So yeah, very exciting. I'm really, really happy to have you guys here. Right, let's get into it then. This is going to be a brief one this morning because, one, I have a very busy day coming up, and 2, like I said, it's a bit of a weird game, so I want to make it short, sharp, give you everything you need to know before watching this weekend, but we will do more analysis after the game and probably on Sunday when we do the review. So let's get into it, and let's start with Brentford. So Brentford are a weird team, aren't they? They are a team that I think of as being so good. One of those next teams up in my head, in with the Brightons and the Fulhams and the Bournemouths. They are a cut above the mid-table in my head, but not in reality. They're 12th. They're 12th, and I think it just shows how competitive the Premier League has become. Once you look past the big 6, you've got Nottingham Forest in 3rd. You've got Newcastle in 5th, Villa in 7th, Fulham in 8th, Brighton in 9th, Bournemouth in 10th, Palace in 11th, Brentford in 12th. So, you know, those teams I consider all very, very good. Very, very good football teams. You look a bit further down the table and the standard of the league really does drop off. If you expect Manchester United and Tottenham to return to some level of average normality, there are 14 to 15 really good teams in the Premier League at the moment. And of course, that's just where we're at, right? Brentford are an incredibly good attacking side this season. They have scored 51 goals. For some context, Newcastle United, who obviously have Alexander Isak, have scored 52. Nottingham Forest, who are in 3rd, have scored 51 as well. And we've only scored 56. And we are a very, very good team. So it is quite incredible that Brentford have scored this many goals. And of course, that is down to their 2 forwards primarily, Yohan Wissa and Bryan Mbeumo, who sort of plays kind of half-forward kind of position. And Mbeumo has 16 goals in the Premier League this season. What we would have given for a 16-goal man in the absence of Kai Havertz and Gabriel Jesus. Yohan Wissa, 14. And those two are really doing a fantastic job for this side. Yohan Wissa is a player who, he has sneakily snuck into a category of striker where I genuinely think he could be and probably should be playing European football week in, week out. He's probably not at the Champions League level like Bryan Mbeumo, both of them, but he should be playing for a team in the Europa League all the time. And yeah, they've got real attacking talent. Mikkel Damsgaard is their highest creator with 10 assists. And they just have a very, very impressive attack. You add to that Kevin Schade, who's done really, really well this year. And the fact that, is it Thiago? Thiago? I believe it's Thiago. I'm just going to have a quick scroll and find that. Thiago Rodriguez, yeah, he's the man they brought to replace Ivan Toney. He's out. He's been out injured. So, to do all of that without the big money signing is quite impressive. Unfortunately for them, their defence has not done the business this year. They've been quite leaky. That's probably an understatement, really. And there have been opportunities for teams against them all the time where they've scored sort of 51 that kind of it mixes it with the teams in the European spots quite comfortably. They've also conceded 47. Now, for context, that's way more than Everton have conceded, more than Tottenham have conceded. We know how historically leaky they are. So, they're actually up there. If you take the three almost certainly relegated teams out of it, they are one of the worst defensive sides in the league, along with West Ham and Wolves. So, that probably is a bit of joy for us after such a good attacking performance against Real Madrid. Mikel Merino obviously is feeling hot after 6 goals in 10 games. So hopefully we can unlock him. And bringing back players like Gabriel Martinelli and Bukayo Saka will surely allow us to exploit some of this leakiness Brentford have. So look, we've got opportunities here. I think it is a chance for us. We need to be wary, of course, of their threat. But with us being at home, it is a game, and obviously the atmosphere, I would imagine, is not going to be the same as Real Madrid, but people are going to be going in positive, feeling good, and hopefully supporting the team a lot. So, with it being at home, with the fact that we have a very, very good defence, I mean, let's not forget that we have the best defence in the league, where Brentford have conceded 47, we have conceded 26. I mean, that's mad, actually, when you look at it like that. 4 better than the next best defence of Liverpool. So, we're doing really well there. So I don't think I'm crazy worried about their attack. If you can shut out Mbappe, I'm sure you can shut out Wissa. Touch wood, might regret saying that one. So, we've probably got enough in our defence to deal with their threat, and noting how leaky they have been in defence themselves, I feel quite confident about this game. The players will obviously have to take it seriously, though, of course. They concede 1.5 goals per game. That's absolutely something we can get at, but they score 1.6. It's something we are going to have to be wary of. But I think we've got plenty in our team. So let's talk about our team a little bit, and let's figure out who we are going to line up with, because I think this is a really interesting question for tomorrow's game. So we saw against Everton before the Real Madrid tie, Mikel Arteta was really, really happy to rotate. He rotated heavily for that game. I was shocked at the amount that he did rotate, to be honest. Much, much, much more than I thought he was ever going to do. And I think, people have been calling for it in the past. In terms of, actually, we need him to rotate more. We want things to be slightly different. We need to keep players like Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Martinelli fresher, so they don't get injured, they don't get tired, all of that sort of stuff. And then when we did it, I think everyone was a bit like, whoa, okay, that's quite a lot of rotation. But I think, obviously, in the Real Madrid tie, it paid off. It made sense. And we obviously have the second leg to play. We need to be ready for that. As much as the first leg was fantastic, and the lead, obviously, of 3 goals is really, really impressive. It really will matter that we have fresh legs, because it's the Bernabeu, and it's Real Madrid, and it's Mbappe, and it's Vinny Jr. We've shut them out once. There's nothing to say that they are not going to rise to their level and be a problem for us. Now, one slight advantage we have is we play on Saturday, whereas Real Madrid play on Sunday. So maybe that will give Mikel Arteta the freedom, perhaps, to play more experienced players who are potentially going to play in both games. But I don't think he's going to do that. I don't think that's not my prediction. I think it is far more likely that we see similar rotation to the Everton game. Now, I have picked out a lineup, a predicted lineup. I'm not going to do the lineup that I would go with, because I'm not sure. I'm really not sure at this point. I'm not sure how I would set it up. I'm going to go with what do I think Mikel Arteta will pick. And I'm going to base that on the Everton game. So we lined up for Everton as Raya, White, Saliba, Kivior, Miles Lewis-Skelly, Rice, Jorginho, Marino, Nwaneri, Trossard, Sterling. And it was that's a heavily rotated team. The first teamers really are obviously Raya, and then Rice and Saliba and Marino. They were the three that played and started both games. Miles Lewis-Skelly as well, and Kivior. But in terms of the players who have played the full season, really, it is Saliba and Rice. So I have picked a team that I think is going to start this game on Saturday. I'm going to read it to you and I'm going to go through my justifications afterwards. So I'll start in goal, obviously Raya, Ben White at right back if he was fit enough to start the Everton game. I'm sure he's fit enough to start this Brentford game. And Jurrien Timber is obviously needed for Real Madrid, and he put in a massive shift on Tuesday night. So let's rest him up. I don't think we have any choices at centre-back because I don't believe Calafiori is back fit. And if he's not back, if he is back fit, I presume he will be on the bench. So it'll be Saliba and Kivior at centre-back. And then I think it is time to give Miles Lewis-Skelly a bit of a rest. He also put in a humongous shift on Tuesday night, playing brilliantly, getting an assist. And I think it's probably just time to say, look, you've done a great job. We're going to put someone else in. My only reservation to that is Bryan Mbeumo is some player. And that's where he will be playing down that kind of right wing channel, tucking in and making problems for Jakub Kivior and Miles Lewis-Skelly if it was him to play. But I do think Mikel Arteta will roll the dice in this position, prioritise keeping Lewis-Skelly fresh, and I think it will be Alexander Zinchenko who comes in for an appearance at left back. In midfield, I cannot see Declan Rice starting in any way, shape or form. I think Declan had an incredible performance against Real Madrid, ran the game as well as his 2 free kicks, but he did come off with 10 minutes to go, and I think people were thinking maybe he's taken a kick, maybe Mikel Arteta is protecting him. If he was willing to protect him in that scenario, I'm very certain he will protect him for this weekend's action. So I think it'll be Jorginho who starts in the 6, Marino in the left 8, as he did against Everton, pulled back from the striker position, and I actually think he was better in the left 8 than we'd seen him previously, primarily because he's fit again. He's had to play a lot up front. That's got him fit. I think that's the difference. I think Nwaneri will play in that Martin Ødegaard position. He played on the right wing against Everton. I think he will drop into midfield again. Martin Ødegaard and Declan Rice will both be rested, and we'll go with a midfield of Jorginho, Nwaneri and Marino. That leaves up front, and it will mean, with not having Nwaneri available for up front, it will mean us having to start one of the players that we think are going to be lining up against Real Madrid. Of course, I've dropped Marino into midfield, so that means either Saka or Martinelli. And in my head, I cannot see Saka starting this game again. He's done incredibly well to be back for the Real Madrid tie in general in the first leg. But, he was taken off after 65, 70 minutes against Real Madrid, I think. And I think he needs the rest. I think he'll come on maybe at half-time again, or maybe with 30 minutes left, something like that, to keep building his fitness. But they need to be really careful with how he's brought back in. So I think it'll be Sterling off the right. Well, actually, it could be either way. Sterling or Martinelli off the right. Martinelli or Sterling off the left. However, Mikel Arteta wants to go for that with Leandro Trossard through the middle. So to sum it up, my team, or the team I think will be picked for Saturday afternoon, Raya, White, Saliba, Kivior, Zinchenko, Jorginho, Nwaneri, Marino, Sterling, Trossard, Martinelli. Not the most exciting team. I don't think there's too much we can do with the injuries that we've got. If we had everyone fit, I think you see a much stronger team being rotated into that game. But I do think we'll see Bukayo Saka from the bench. I do think we'll see Martin Ødegaard from the bench, which will obviously inject some excitement into the game. But I think he's just going to heavily prioritise that second leg against Real Madrid. And I just cannot see too many of the first teamers or the at-risk players starting over and above that. I'm going to go with a 2-1 Arsenal. 2-1 Arsenal. I think Mbeumo will get a goal, probably something scrappy, but I do think that we will, we'll do our job. Probably, I'm going to go Trossard to score and Nwaneri to score. They're going to be my players, my picks. I'm going to leave it there, guys, because it is it's a time for a short one, isn't it? It's a nice one just to pick up and listen to drinking your coffee or in the car on the way to work this Friday morning. Yeah, I hope you enjoy the game on Saturday. Like I say, I will be reviewing it on Sunday, so you will be able to see all of my analysis there. And I hope that, we can still get behind the team for a weird game, a strange game, a game that's going to feel almost like a bit of a filler, a placeholder. That we don't need or want. But I think it's super important for us to keep going and keep building momentum. Wins breed wins. We've seen that with Liverpool this year. They got on a good run and just did not get off that train for a long time. And I think we've got Real Madrid coming up in the second leg. I've ummed and ahed about, would I rather that Mikel Arteta went in and shut up shop and did what we know we are really good at? Or would I rather him go out and get the first goal? I think I'm leaning towards getting the first goal. In which case, let's go out, do the same against Brentford, get that momentum, score some goals, make sure we're still in that positive feeling, that good vibe, and take that to Madrid on Wednesday next week. Just a quick one. If you've enjoyed this episode or any episode of Arsenal Unfiltered, please consider hitting follow wherever you get your podcasts from, or even better, if you're feeling really generous, leaving me a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Both are great. Both really help the podcast grow and really help me to keep bringing you content 3 times a week. All that's left to say is thank you so much for following. Thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you very, very soon.